Howdy friends, I'm Morgan the Nerdy Cowgirl and welcome back to my channel. So I have another tag video for you guys. Today I am doing the time and place reading tag. I was tagged by Obscure Book Adventures. She focuses on lesser known or obscure books, and her channel is very cool and interesting, and she has a lot of cool and different books that she talks about on her channel, so be sure to go and check out her channel. This tag was originally created by Carl at Please Read Your Book. It is 5 questions dealing with books at different times and places that you want to read or that you have read. So let's get into my answers. Question 1. A book that reminds you of your past. A book that reminds me of my past is King of the Wind by Margaret Henry. As you can see, I have 2 copies. I don't remember why I have 2 copies, but this has been my favorite book since elementary school. And it reminds me of my past because it reminds me of elementary school. It is, as you can see, this one is very well loved. My cover's falling apart. My spine is all tore up, and even this one, you can tell that I've read it a bunch of times. So, as you can tell, this has been my favorite book for a long time, and I've read it multiple times. But I'll show you guys the pretty version, the pretty copy that I have. So, King of the Wind is a story about a stable boy named Agba. I always called him Agba. It could be Agba, but it follows him, and he is mute. And he is a stable boy for the Sultan of Morocco, and he is taking care of a broodmare, and she goes into labor, and she ends up passing away during the birth. And so he basically raises this little colt on his own. The colt has 2 things on his body that mark him. One is a mark of like success and luck and fortune, and the other is a mark of bad luck and bad fortune. So he's got one of each on both of him, and so Agba thinks, maybe they'll cancel out. But if you've ever seen the movie Spirit, the Stallion and the Cimarron, it's kind of the same thing. They get passed around, and it's one thing after another thing after another thing, and I don't know, I just always loved it because, it just showed the love of a boy and his horse that he's raised and he's grew up with, and yeah, I just loved it. I don't know why. It is the story about the Godolphin Arabian, who is like one of the foundation sires of the thoroughbred breed. So yeah, it was my favorite book growing up. So it always takes me back to my past, and I can't wait to read it with my boys. Question 2. A book that is set in a place you want to visit but have not. So a place that I would like to visit is Montana. A book that is set in Montana that I would like to read is Indigo Ridge by Devney Perry. I've heard lots of good things about this book and about the author, and so I'd like to give this a shot. Like I said, I haven't read this yet, but it is on my TBR. I would like to read this one. Indigo Ridge is the first book in the Edens series. It says, Winslow Covington believes in life, liberty, and the letter of the law. As Quincy, Montana's new chief of police, she's determined to prove herself to the community and show them she didn't earn her position because her grandfather is the mayor. According to her pops, all she has to do is earn favor with the Edens. But winning over the town's founding family might have been easier if not for her one-night stand with their oldest son. In her defense, it was her first night in town, and she didn't realize that the rugged and charming man who wooed her into bed was Quincy royalty. Sleeping with Griffin Eden was a huge mistake, one she's trying to forget. He's insufferable, arrogant, and keeps reminding everyone that she's an outsider. Winslow does her best to avoid Griffin, but when a woman is found dead on Eden property, the two of them have no choice but to cross paths. As clues to the murderer lead to one of Quincy's own, Griffin realizes Winslow is more than he gave her credit for. Beautiful and intelligent, she proves hard to resist, for him and the killer. Ooh, that sounds good. Question 3. A book that is set in a foreign country that you admire. My answer for this one will have to be Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I fell in love with this show at first, and I had to get the book and read the book, and I loved this first book. I loved this first book. I got about halfway through the second, or maybe 3/4 of the way through the second book, but for some reason I just couldn't get into that one. I just wanted their story. I just wanted Claire and Jamie. So if you don't know what Outlander is a story about a woman named Claire who was an army nurse in World War II in 1945, and her and her husband Frank go on they got married right before the war, and then they both had to go to war, and so when the war was over, they came back and they decided to have a second honeymoon, and they go to Scotland. And while they're there, it is around Samhain, I think, which is Halloween. They catch these pagans doing this ritual around doing this dance around these stones, and Claire goes back to the stones to pick up a flower that she saw at the stones when they had visited earlier, or when they had visited then, and she goes back to get the flowers because they're medicinal flowers, and she starts hearing a humming from one of the stones, and she goes to touch it, and she is teleported to 1743. So back in the Highland era of Scotland, and that is where she meets Jamie Fraser, and she ends up having to marry him in order to protect herself from the English. And so yeah, it is their love story. I don't know. I love Jamie. I love Claire. I love this book. So yeah, and I would love to visit Scotland. It just seems like a cool place. So, and I admire it. Number 4. A book set in the city, province, district, or state you live in. For this one, I had to look up books that are set in Kentucky, because that's where I live, and I don't know of any books that are set in Kentucky. Kentucky's not a very hop-in place to be setting your books in. So I had to look this one up. But one that I found that sounded really good was The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but she's the author of Me Before You. And it says that from the author of Me Before You, set in Depression-era America, a breathtaking story of 5 extraordinary women and their remarkable journey through the mountains of Kentucky and beyond. Alice Wright marries handsome American Bennett Van Cleve, hoping to escape her stifling life in England, but small-town Kentucky quickly proves equally claustrophobic, especially living alongside her overbearing father-in-law. So when a call goes out for a team of women to deliver books as part of Eleanor Roosevelt's new traveling library, Alice signs on enthusiastically. The leader, and soon Alice's greatest ally, is Marjorie, a smart-talking, self-sufficient woman who's never asked a man's permission for anything. They will be joined by 3 other singular women who become known as the Pack-Horse Librarians of Kentucky. What happens to them and to the men they love becomes an unforgettable drama of loyalty, justice, humanity, and passion. These heroic women refuse to be cowed by men or by convention, and though they face all kinds of dangers in a landscape that is at times breathtakingly beautiful, at others brutal, they're committed to their job, bringing books to people who have never had any, arming them with facts that will change their lives. Based on a true story rooted in America's past, The Giver of Stars is unparalleled in its scope and epic in its storytelling. Funny, heartbreaking, and enthralling, it is destined to become a modern classic, a richly rewarding novel of women's friendship, of true love, and of what happens when we reach beyond our grasp for the great beyond. So that sounded really good to me, and it takes place in Kentucky, so I would definitely like to check that one out. Last question. A book set in the future that you think is or will be realistic. Now, I have not read very many sci-fis, which are normally what deal with like futuristic outcomes or like dystopian outcomes, stuff like that. I haven't really read that many of those, but I would like to. So if you have any recommendations for good sci-fi books, let me know below. But one that is high or even at the top of my sci-fi list to read is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I'm not real sure how realistic Ready Player One is, but it is futuristic. I think it said it takes place in 2044, and so I'd like to read that one. I'm going to change this one and say a book set in the future that you would like to read. And I'm going to say Ready Player One. That is all the questions that I have. The last thing that I need to do is tag some friends. So I've got 4 people to tag. My first one is going to be Sarah Hafidh. I hope I said your name right. I'm sorry, Sarah, if I didn't. I think I heard you say your name as Sarah in one of your videos before, so I think it's Sarah. But if it's not, then correct me. But definitely go check her out. She has a very cozy and just warm feel to her channel, and she just seems like a sweet and kind soul. So definitely go check her channel out. And next I want to tag some other character. He just seems like a fun dude. And he seems like he would have some really good answers to these. And I love his sense of humor. He cracks me up. Next, I'd like to tag the Linguists Library. She has a bunch of cool and different books on hers, like language-based and stuff. And it was really cool. She seems so smart. Like she kind of intimidates me a little bit, but she seems like another cool person too. And last, I'd like to tag Julia Rain. She is another newbie like me, and so I always like to help other newbies out, so go check her channel out. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you liked this time and place tag. It was just a easy, fun tag to do. I hope you enjoyed my choices. Let me know your books that you would answer for these questions in the comments below. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. God bless you. Happy trails. Bye.